All right, we have so much for you tonight on this program, and we'll be stretching these to about 10 p.m. tonight and give you all the perspectives you need to know as far as this protest is concerned. You're watching Channels Television, your station of choice. But let's get some insight. I'm being joined by one of the lawyers who have been speaking and, of course, being in the mix of things, advising and giving his own professional view on the state of affairs. I'm being joined by a senior advocate of Nigeria, right activist, Mr. Falana, who joins us from our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana, and it's good to see you on a day as this. It's the 1st of August, the day of the very first day in the End Bad Governance protest. But give me a summary of your own take of the whole incident across the country as we have reported today. What is your own assessment?
Well, from reports emanating from across the country, while the protests were peaceful in many parts of the country, incidents of violence was recorded, very disturbing. And I think for me, we should now begin to draw the necessary lessons from what happened today. First of all, is the need for the government, and I'm not talking of the federal government alone, the federal government, the state government, the local government, and all authorities in our country to learn to move speedily to douse tension in the country, to learn to engage people, as I did suggest a couple of weeks ago. The government must engage the young people who are aggrieved. Unlike some of us who say we didn't know who the organizers of the protest were or are, the State Security Service claim to know them. And so once they have been identified, what the government should have done was to engage them. And for me, it is more urgent than ever before to begin that constructive engagement in the interest of the country. And in the entire country today, I think it was only in Rivers State where the governor came out, Governor Fubara, to address the crowd. And for the young people, you could see it on television, they felt substantially fulfilled, that at least somebody was listening to them and somebody was assuring them that their complaints will be attended to. And that should happen all over the place. And then we must also learn to stop mobilizing people to disrupt rallies. We must stop mobilizing traditional institutions or traditional rulers and some emergency organizations, youth bodies, to say, oh, we are pulling out of the protest. Did you plan the protest with anybody? So the government must now begin to identify those who are genuinely aggrieved and then begin to engage them. What are your complaints? So that people will have a feeling, a sense of belonging. For me, that is key. Secondly, the security forces in our country must also, from this experience, learn to engage those who have given notice of protest. Because what the law now requires, what the law is saying, what the law has stipulated, is that once you notify the police that you want to have a rally, a public meeting, or a procession, the police shall make arrangement to provide adequate security. And that is not enough, because from what I saw on the television this afternoon, and I begin to ask myself, I'm asking myself, do we have enough? Because this was the experience the last time. Do we have enough tear gas? I didn't see any water cannon anywhere. Because when you are managing a crowd in any modern society, there must be the possibility that a peaceful protest can turn violent. Even in the most advanced democratic countries, what do? You have to fire tear gas, water cannon, so that you can demobilize those who are violent. But where we do not have enough tear gas or water, we have no water cannon at all, you run into problems. And so, for me, the government must go back to the drawing table and begin to draw necessary lessons and see how we can prevent occurrence of violence. Because in this country, we have been having protests since the colonial regime. You talk of Abba women protests in 1929, when the British colonial regime killed 55 women, unarmed women. In 1949, Iva Valley workers were on strike for better conditions of service. The British colonial regime killed 21 of them. And we can't continue like that under a democratic government of our own. And so that is why the government and the security forces must discard the neo-colonial orientation. We must see our people. We must see our people as our people and engage them and ensure that the government goes out to douse tension all the time.
Mr. Falana, let me jump in quickly. Let's look at the legal framework or some of the legality or the issues, legal issues that have since now been brought into the fray. We saw that in Abuja, for example, in the FCT, there is an Abuja court that is giving an order restricting the protesters to the National Stadium. In Lagos, the Lagos High Court has restricted the protesters to two parks, the Peace Park and the Freedom Park. In Ogun State, there is a similar court order granted by the court. But we see that the protest, as much as the police and government say, if we do not want a street demonstration or marching on the street, it does look like the protesters move beyond the premise of the court ruling. What do you make of that kind of scenario which played out today?
Again, I think the government should have learned not to rush to court on the eve of a strike action by workers or on the eve of a protest by young people. I think it was in 2006, the NSA was going to go on strike, and in the dead of the night, another was issued by a Lagos High Court, which the then president of Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, referred to as a black market injunction. Because the difficulty with such orders is that they are never served on those they are meant to restrain. For instance, the order in Lagos wasn't served on anybody. The orders in Ogun State were not served on anybody. The order in Abuja, I even think one of the defendants, I think, is said to be unknown persons. Now, how do you serve a court order on an unknown person? But likely, to be honest with you, I think with respect to Abuja and Lagos and I think Ogun, there was substantial compliance. Many of the protesters did come out to criticize the restriction. And when my views were sought, I did say yes, whereas Section 83, subsection 4 of the Police Act provides for procession, rallies, and public meetings and protests. But if the police says sorry, or the state says we are unable to mobilize enough security forces to man enough policemen and women to man processions all over the country, yes, you may have to understand that. If they now say you are restricted, right? In Lagos, likely today, from my information, people came as far from about 40, 30 kilometers away to participate in the protest in Ojota. Again, that was the venue that was being used for protests before the government sealed it off. Ditto for Abuja. Protesters were using an enclosure. The Unity Fountain is a stone's throw from Transcorp Hilton Hotel. The government in Abuja, the FCT administration, sealed it off. So people then went to the street. If the government is now coming back to say, in every state capital, we want to designate a venue, a protest ground, as is done in many countries in the world. Again, I think that is a lesson to learn from this. But don't rush to court. When you had at least 2 weeks notice, of an impending protest, don't rush to court on the eve of that protest, because even if the court makes the order, it's not going to be served on people practically. And that is why, as I said, we must be drawing some lessons from this protest. And for our judges too, there is also the need to learn to be very cautious, so that orders of court are not made irrelevant to situations in our country. Because if an order of court it's not obeyed, and you are ridiculing the court, and we shouldn't allow that.
But Mr. Falana, if you see those who were at the Eagle Square, it would seem to me, legally speaking, that protesters have been forbidden by the order of court, which should be sacrosanct and which should be binding on all persons that are willing to protest. And same with Lagos, same with Abeokuta or Ogun State. And if the court says you are restricted to this place, what is the consequence? For example, if police had arrested anyone outside of those specified areas, what are the consequences? Consequences.
You know, this business of law, sometimes when you are talking politics, there are complications. For instance, yes, if anybody is arrested in Digu Square or outside the National Stadium protesting in Abuja, you will need to take the person to court for contempt. To initiate a contempt proceedings, you must demonstrate that the order was served on the person. But if the person says, I'm not aware of your order, it's going to be difficult. But what is important, because I did investigate, why did anybody go to Eagle Square, even when the court has restricted you to the National Stadium, Abiola Stadium? Unfortunately, my finding, it's not very good. I mean, it's not, doesn't speak well of the authorities, because there was going to be a major violent clash in the stadium, whereby a counter-protest was also organized. A group that had description, had vest, wore vest, no to protest, came in about 6 lorry loads. And so these other guys who had been restricted to the stadium simply withdrew and attempted to use Eagle Square. And from my report again, there will have been a clash between apart from throwing of tear gas, there will have been a serious clash. But I understand some senior military officers who were around, appealed to the police, to ensure that peace was maintained. And that was why we didn't have any terrible incident in Abuja today. So that is what I mean by saying organizers of protests and the police must be in touch during protest. And that was why the Inspector General of Police was asking for details. Who are the leaders of the protests in each of the states, so that we can link up with them if there is going to be any disturbing, a situation. And again, as I said, we are learning. Where we are coming from is that public protests were declared illegal in the country. And those who brought that law to Nigeria, as was said in the case of MPP and IGP in Ghana, those who brought the law on protest, restricting protests in our countries, never applied such laws in their country, that is United Kingdom. So now that we are free, We must now allow our people to express themselves. If you are not able to use the newspapers or the television, you can go to the street, either for or against the government. And when that is going to be done, to make it peaceful, the security must be involved. So this is the position of the law today. But if you then go to court, you want to restrict me, you must give me notice, you must serve me the notice, so that we can also tell all the who will be participants in the protest. We have now been restricted. This is the basis of the restriction. And that is one of the lessons we have to draw from the protest.
Yeah, is day one, someone like Ebunlu Adegborougha has advised that, look, this protest shouldn't be more than a day on the first day. And in fact, prior to this morning, there are those who believe that the objective of the planned protest has been established because government is already responding. And Ebunlu Adegborougha did advise different persons and stakeholders involved, security agencies, government, protesters, and he said one day should be enough. I'd like to know whether, in your view, that the objective of these protests has been served or has been communicated to the quarters that need to hear them.
You know, my position is that even if the protests hadn't occurred today, if there had been no movement today, the organizers could jolly well say, we have drawn attention of the government and the people of Nigeria to our protests, because the government popularized the protest through its reaction. The government summoned many meetings in Abuja. The government came out almost belatedly to reel out the list of achievements of the federal government. At the same time, some officials of the government embark on a campaign of calumny against certain people who they thought were responsible for the protest. But now that the protest took place today, as I said, I didn't plan a protest. Ebunlu Adegborougha said didn't plan a protest. We can only advise. But what is important is to engage the organizers of the protest. We were involved as lawyers, and usually when people are going to protest, they say, well, in case we're arrested, we would like your services. And again, when we made the IG, we did make the point. I'm not a member of the Take Back movement. But since we are invited to this meeting, we need to give advice on the state of the law, on when we had the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC had protests in the past, and now it was managed. So that is our duty. Now it is the organizers of the protest that the government will have to persuade to call off. And it has happened sometimes. The Nigerian Labour Congress has said, we're going to have an indefinite protest. After a day, the government reaches out to them. The people say, okay, we are postponing the protest to see how the government will react in the next 2 or 3 months. And we must use the same formula here. Oh, you have made your point. Young people have a way of saying, what point have we made? So, but we can say, at least this is already clearly a wake-up call for the government and on the part of the government. I'm not talking of the federal government alone. I'm not talking of the federal government alone. The governments that are closer to the people, the state and local government, must now be seen to be involved in promoting public accountability in our country. The legislators in Abuja that had a special session almost on the eve of the protest should now go beyond expressing concern and telling the protesters, we have heard you loud and clear. You must now begin by saying, now that they have been asked to go to their constituency, during this recess, the legislators must meet members of their constituency to discuss their constituency projects, where those projects are going to be located, the contractors that will handle the projects, because we understand not less than 500 million naira has gone to every constituency. Because by September or thereabout, another budget will be presented. On the part of the state governments, it's not enough to be asking for palliatives from Abuja. The state government must also move out to also address problems, increasing poverty in the country. For instance, and this is why young people too, the protesters, and all of us, particularly the elite, must take more than a passing interest in the affairs of our country. Because just last week, the FAC shared about 1.3 trillion to the 3 tiers of government. That is the highest in the last 1 year. In addition to that, the federal government disbursed to 34 states and the FCT. I say 34 because Anambra and Kaduna were not involved. According to the government, the federal government, they hadn't submitted certain reports. 438 billion naira was given to the states as part of the loan taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. So the money now is now being used to address poverty in the country. So we must also engage our governors. This money that has come from Abuja, in addition to your statutory allocation for July, what are the projects? Who are the people to be assisted from this huge fund? So, and unless we have a comprehensive review of the affairs of the government, the budget of the government, not just the budget of the federal government, the budget of the state government, the budget of local governments, and then we ensure that budget implementation is taken very seriously.
Yeah. We're due for a break, but I wanted to know if the objective of the protest has been achieved.
Well, you see, for the young people, they have some demands. The government will have to address those demands. And that is why I've suggested, as a matter of urgency, an engagement with the leaders of the protest movement. So we can't stay outside and say,
engage them. How much? Sorry, Mr. Falana, I'm wondering, because if the government is saying we do not really identify the leaders of the, except Mr. Mulu Adegburua that the police have been interfacing with.
Yes.
And yourself also has been in the mix. In fact, that those who will say, who should we now hold accountable now that these fears of the federal government have been established, the fear that this thing might lead to violence, and we've seen violence in some parts of the country today, looting and vandalism. The fears of the government has been established, isn't it?
The State Security Service announced publicly. We know the organizers. This is their objective. Oh, yes. Of course, one of the groups briefed our colleague, can you please apply to the police that this is our route, not for permit, just information. This is our route. And it is so. There are other groups whose leaders are known to the government. And this is the time now to quickly summon a meeting of those leaders. It's not like NSAS. There was a leaderless revolution. This one, the leaders are known. They have been issuing statements. And the government has been responding to the statement. And so for me, it is easy for the government to identify those leaders. Because it's not enough for us, one day is okay, the government has listened to you, the government is responding. If the organizers feel that the issues raised by them have not been addressed, then We may not be addressing the problem, so that we don't deceive ourselves.
Quickly, Mr. Falana, my question here is that if the fears of the government at ab initio is there could be violence, so don't do the protest. Now that there is violence, who will the government hold accountable to that? For example, in Borno State, bomb went off and people are dead now. In Kano State, they looted the NCC park and they went into the government house. In some state, there is now curfew in nothing less than 2-3 states in the country. Who should the Nigerian people or the government hold accountable when it has been foreseen that there could be violence?
Well, unfortunately, violence occurred in some parts of the country, unfortunately. And of course, I wish to express my condolences, to those, the families of those who were killed. In matters like this, what will happen, what will have to happen is for the state governments involved to investigate the remote and immediate causes of the violence that has occurred. And that happened during the NSAS protest. Unfortunately, majority of the state government did not even release the reports of the judicial commissions of inquiry set up during the NSAS protest. If those reports have been released and white papers have been issued, recommendations have been implemented, there's no way we'll have had any kind of violence this time around. And that is why we must learn. For instance, one of the recommendations from the judicial commissions of inquiry is that next time that people want to protest, the government must move speedily to address their complaints so that we won't be having protests that may lead to violence. With respect to who to blame, I'm not going to be able to say, oh, blame this one or blame that, because some of them will also say, we played our part. In many parts of the country, there was no violence, or here, maybe the handling by security forces might have contributed. So I think this is the issue.
All right. I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Falana, for your thought and perhaps your legal guidance in all of this. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Femi Falana, rights activist and senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you. Pleasure.
Right. We'll be hearing from government. Perhaps one of the ministers that is directly affected by today's protest is the Minister of Communications, Mr. Bosun Tijani, who has since joined me here live in our Abuja studio to give us an insight into some of what has become a major infrastructure casualty in the country. And of course, the governor of Ogun State, Governor Dapo Abiodun, will also be joining me, but we go on a break, everyone. After this break, we'll be speaking with government, and also we have very much deeper perspective of what happened on the field today. Stay with us, everyone, and stand by. We might be going live to hear from the Inspector General of Police in all of these. Our continued coverage is right here on Channels Television, and we'll be right back, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us on our continued coverage of the end protest, which has been an agitation of some Nigerians across the nation. Today, we saw how things went south in the northwestern region of the country, specifically in Kano State, where hoodlums looted the newly built Nigeria Communication Commission Industrial Park in the state. The vandals targeted the Kano Information and Communication Technology Center just days before its scheduled launch, setting it on fire and making off with valuable equipment. Photos that you can see on your screen are the remains of the vandalized facilities there on the ground. And the pictures are since been circulating. In fact, they were taking furniture, chairs, and all what a view out of that vicinity. And of course, a few days ago, you could see, interestingly, the state governor of Ogun, who was riding on a CNG-powered bike, is one of the initiatives the government says it will put in place to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians. He will be joining me at some point on the program. But let's speak with the Minister of Communication, Dr. Bosun Tijani. He joins us live here in our studio. Thanks so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Give us an understanding of how these meet. For example, you never thought that this facility was going to be hit by these attacks, by these hoodlums who have made away with valuables, which you tweeted to say they're in millions of naira. What's your initial reaction to, apart from what you said in your tweet?
I think, it's the sad reality of using protest as a means of engagement. It's a means of engagement, but it's the sad reality of it. I think if you look around the world, you'll find that in South Africa, looting was part of the experience when people protested. In Kenya, more recently, looting was part of it. Black Lives Matter, looting was part of it. And I think this is something I'm personally aware of, that the president was crystal clear about the fact that we should protect businesses, assets, lives. And that's the conundrum that you find government in. You know, a lot of people before this protest were talking about the fact that you have law enforcement officers out there in the street. But how do you protect lives and properties if you don't have these officers out there? And this is a clear example. This property is one of the properties that the last administration actually worked on, but there were a number of things that were incompleted. So when I came into office, the first thing I did was to map out all these assets. And I made a declaration, it's in the public. We published their locations. We said we have to put them to good use, right, for the benefit of our people. And as you know, we started the 3 Million Technical Talent, which is the largest technology talent accelerator program in the world. At the minute, there's a global shortage for technology talent. We have very large amounts of young people in this country. The responsibility of the government is to train them, empower them so that they can become useful for the world. And that's what our program is about. It was only just 2 months ago that the last set of equipments were put in there. And we just agreed 2 weeks ago to launch that facility next week. This facility is meant to be used for those who are learning technical skills. Bear in mind that the 3 Million Technical Talent program that we're running had the highest number of applications from Kano. And at the minute, we're training thousands of people. We needed more facilities to be able to cover these people. So the hope is that we were going to add more young people to the program. In fact, there's a program that we've also announced, which we call the Build-A-Thon, which is meant to be all-day program for young secondary school kids, to start to get to expose them to technology. But unfortunately, all the computers in there, everything is now gone, which means we have to reassess. Of course,
this perhaps, can you estimate in naira value what this could amount to?
It will be millions, if not billions, because it's a lovely building. You saw the picture.
Apart from building, the structure.
Yeah, the structure, the content. There are computers there. I think on top of my head, we will have anywhere between 150 or probably 120, 150 computers, both PCs and laptops in there. In fact, what was missing was that the generator needed a few more work, and also the power backup that needed to be in the space before we could start to use the computer. That was the last thing that the contractor supplied, and we were meant to go in and put it to good use. But this is part of what you get with protests. I've been part of this government. Before joining this government, I ran CC Hub, which catered for a lot of young people, helped young people build businesses, created jobs for people. And one thing I've seen as a minister in this government is the intentionality behind every program that the president and the team is put out. When you study these programs carefully, you will see that this administration has clear programs for the unemployed, the underemployed, those who are employed but they are not earning well enough, those who are gainfully employed, businesses, even students. We have an array of programs for them, and these programs are meant to target age-long challenges in our nation. And these age-long challenges are not just linked to Nigeria. There's a global food crisis, which is not unique to us. There's energy cost, which is going up everywhere in the world. And you can see the intention to address a lot of these problems. And I feel if people are engaging on some of these issues, perhaps we need the elite, the intellectual class, to start to pay deeper attention to the programs and ask questions. You may not agree with the approach. Ask deep questions. We need intellectual conversations so that we can serve our people that truly needs us.
See, on that facility, give me the assessment report that you're getting from your staff on the ground. Did the looters or those who vandalized that property, did they leave anything? Did they save anything? Or they made out with everything.
In fact, initially we were getting reports from staff, but we had to ensure that all staff members were safe and they were not in the building. The last report I got was actually from an aide to the governor, who is the gentleman that we've been working with on the official launch next week. And he had to reach out and say they may need more security officers to help, because they went in there and they were taking, in fact,
they broke the gate?
They broke the gate.
They brought down the gate, they broke the doors.
They were taking cables, electric cables, connectivity cables were being pulled. That was the last report he gave me. Of course, we've not been. Once everything is settled, we will go back there. We've already seen a few companies who are saying this is an important project for Kano, and they'll be more than happy to support to bring it back alive. But this is the cost.
It's a monumental.
It's a monumental cost.
It's a loss. It's a loss.
It
puts you backwards.
It's a loss.
For your ministry, this would have been a moment where you would say, this is what the Bola Tinubu government is doing, but unfortunately, you will not be able to do that.
No, we've been doing it because we've been leveraging centers in Kano for this training. The goal was open this up so that we can increase the number of young people that are benefiting. And I've seen people made very ridiculous comments like, why would you put a center like that in Kano? As if the young people in Kano don't have the right to dream. As if they don't have the right to be part of the digital economy. Kano is one of the places where we've had the highest number of applications, and there are a lot of young people there who wants to be part of the digital. They want to acquire skills that will make them to be part of the global economy. And thousands of people are already learning. Our goal is hard more.
So what do you do now this facility is down and out?
I think this is not going to take us out of. I have to be honest. There's already a company that reached out and said we must continue.
We must bring it back
because it's about the young. When you look at the faces, look at the picture. The pictures that you see, the young people who looted this, extremely young people. These are not the people who started this protest. They're not. The people, you always have looters when we're anywhere in the world. The guys who went in there are not the ones who started the protest. They saw it as an opportunity.
When you and your colleagues with the president sat at the Federal Executive Council 3 days ago on Monday, was this one of the fears of the president had, or the federal government had?
The president has never been. He's always been clear about this protest.
What was his position?
So even when people say the president has always been clear. The president says protest is the right of the citizens. What we should not allow is for citizens to disrupt society, to destroy property, and to destroy businesses as well. It was actually quite particular about that. Because what you see is when they start to attack small businesses, these people will struggle to come back. And these are the people that are lifting our economy up. They're the ones who are creating the jobs that we want to see. The government is listening.
But Mr. Tijani, the question here is whether the government that you are serving in is conscious about the heat in the room.
Absolutely. I'll give
you guys, just for a moment, Minister, if you guys are not aloof of the suffering and the hunger in the land, and these are some of the things that the protesters and those who took to the street are saying, that the people are hungry and they are screaming it as though those who are in government are deaf to what is going on in town, or they're aloof to what is going on. It does look like the government may be aloof of what is going on with the Nigerians.
Let's focus on the topic, hunger. Focus on hunger and assess what the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is done with agriculture. Personally, I've invested in agriculture, so this is something I'm passionate about. In the first 1 year of this administration, there's been significant investment and support into agriculture with the sole purpose of ensuring that we can drop the cost of food in the country. Focus on it. Focus on the recent...
But the food prices are still up.
It's a global challenge. It's a global challenge. And if you pay attention to the way agriculture is done globally, there are a number of countries that can't even grow their food. You go to places like UK, they rely on imported food. The agricultural value chain is extremely complicated. You require technology to be able to produce a mass. You can't rely on the typical conversation around smallholder farmers feeding us. No, you have to invest in equipment. And that's what this administration is doing. I'm not the Minister of Agriculture. I'm not taking his job. The minister is doing fantastic work, moving from state to state, coming up with initiatives, supporting farmers with fertilizers, with herbicides, supporting farmers with all sorts of equipment. Recently, FEC approved significant investment in agricultural equipment to encourage mechanization. These things don't happen in 2-3 months. And we are listening. The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is listening. If you pay attention to all the topical issues in this country, this president is quick to react with solution.
All right.
We saw what happened last week with the Dangote group. We saw that. What did the president do and his team? That's unprecedented. We've not seen that kind of solution in the country. Yeah.
If you look into it, because you are one of the federal government officials that Nigerians will be seeing speaking publicly after tonight's event. And let's assume you're speaking on behalf of FEC, on behalf of President Bola Tinubu. What, if you look into the camera, what would you be telling Nigerians? Because they believe that there is a disconnection between your government and the Nigerian people, the hunger in the land and the abundance that you people have available to you in government, and the kind of lifestyle that you and your colleagues are living, which makes a lot of people get angry that these guys are not just considering us. What, if you look at the camera, what would you tell Nigerians tonight?
Shaun, the reality about this government, and I'm going to split, when we talk Nigerians, I'm going to try to ask two different groups of people to step back and look at this administration. In my adult life, I've never seen a government, in my adult life. I've been active in development in Nigeria, not just protests, nor anything. In development, in my adult life, I've not seen a government with a set of programs that cut across every facet of our society, whether you talk about people who are unemployed, underemployed, gainfully employed, businesses. In my adult life, I've not seen a government that is extremely intentional. What this government requires is the collective effort of both the government, the public sector, the private sector, to come together to ensure that we can actually deliver on the promises and the interventions that this government is putting in place to ensure that we can serve the ordinary Nigerians. Those things won't be built. I've used the example of agriculture. The unemployed people in Nigeria, I ran CCO for years. It takes about 2-3 years for you to get a young person into a career in tech. And once you get them in, it's one of the highest paying jobs in the world.
So invariably, in about 50 years, this is perhaps the best government that you...
in my adult life, yes.
In about 50 years.
With the knowledge of what I've had. I'm not 50, I'm just a few years.
Yeah, I say in about 50 years.
In about 50.
But I know you are
in my adult life. And I'm not saying this because I'm a minister. I'm saying this because I see the programs that
Bola Tinubu government is
absolutely.
The best that
I challenge anyone to empirically look at those programs, map them on the country, map them on our age-long challenges, age-long issues that we've faced for years. Even though we want these issues addressed in 12 months, just map them on it and ask whether there's clarity and intention behind this president.
I would like you to close. And whether or not those who are asking that this government needs to be begging and pleading to the Nigerian people and their sensibilities also, because if they are not seeing some of the results of your action and activity, they deserve to be angry because they put this government into office. Close for us on your own beat and let Nigerians know the position of this government going forward.
No, I think for me, this is an inclusive government. People have different interpretations of different approaches. When you look at what this government has done in the last 2 weeks, you will see a government that is actually engaged extensively on this matter. To a point where even commentators say we're engaging too much. That's what people take it to. If you run a country, your goal as leaders is to engage different parts of the society, not just a group. The issues that are on the table are issues that concerns all of us. So this government is taking the intention to engage traditional rulers.
Will you be begging Nigerians to be patient with you?
It's not about begging. It's about truly explaining what we've been doing, which is what we've been doing.
Pinch, if you make promise to people and they are not feeling it, and they are quick to ask questions, in the over 60 years of the existence of this country, people have not really benefited from government. And so when they're asking tough questions from their government, and that's why I'm asking whether or not you look to them and beg them tonight to say, please give us some more time. Are you able to do that?
We will implore and we will give evidence to show people that this is an intentional government that is listening to them.
But you cannot beg them to be patient.
Begging you does not solve the problem. Even if we beg and apologize, it doesn't solve the problem. This government wants to solve problems. This is a problem-solving government. It's a problem-solving president that we have in place. That's why it's taking hard decisions. We want people to see it. Where those things are slow and people feel like they're not coming through, we would like to hear from people and we'll act. That's what we're doing. That's the approach I've taken. As a minister, I document all my work. I report myself every week. In 10 months, no one engaged the strategic blueprint and said to us, these are the things you said. We put timelines there on when we're going to deliver things. We said we're going to lay 90,000 kilometers of cable to ensure that quality of internet is up. That's not something you do in 2 months. We put the timeline there. So we want people to...
How many have you laid now?
In the face of raising the money, 7 DFIs are now putting the capital together, 2 billion. That's not something you get in 10 months.
I mean, in the last few weeks, Minister, there has been a huge amount of drop costs. Network connectivity has been horrible. In fact, today, is it coincidence that network just went bizarre today?
There's no instruction to tamper with network. So if people are saying there's no instruction, absolutely no.
Could there be some kind of sabotage?
From my office.
All of a sudden,
it's not sabotage. You also need to understand when you have a significant amount of people not at work, people are online. So you expect the traffic will be extremely high. And I'm not saying that's the cause. I've not done any technical assessment.
Shouldn't we be getting some updates from operators to say what you're experiencing today? Because now Nigerians will have to now be blaming government, that government is intentionally meddling with the network just to frustrate their ability to be able to follow what is going on. I mean, there is a very bad culture with our telecoms operators. When they're a bad service, it's not forgetting that Nigerians are paying their hard-earned money for this service. They never even tell you that they have a bad network, they have this, and I don't want to be mentioning some of these terrible networks who will never relate with Nigerians as though we are in one colonial era. I mean, it's unpardonable.
Our mandate and role as government is not just only to drive these people to be responsive, but also to ensure that there's the proper investment in the infrastructure that we require to produce and provide the quality of service that people require. I've said this on this channel before. There's still significant lag. For Nigeria to have good quality telecommunications and connectivity service, we need 125,000 kilometers. This is something from a proper study of 125,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable laid. We've only invested as a nation, the private sector, 35,000 kilometers. So what we're expecting, the quality we're expecting, and this is the project that this government is prioritized. FEC has already approved this. Unfortunately, it won't be done in 6 months or 12 months.
Dr. Bosun Tijani is Honorable Minister for Communications. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. And I do, do I commiserate with your ministry on that loss? Do let us know as soon as you get it up and running, because we at China Television, we are interested in some of the developmental projects and how it impacts to the average person in this country. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I will be going to Abeokuta now with the governor of Ogun State, Governor Dapo Abiodun. And of course, what we saw a few days ago was Governor Abiodun riding on a CNG powered bike. Who ever think that Governor Abiodun could ride a bike? I mean, driving a vehicle might be an easier path to tread as a normal Nigerian, but now seeing him ride that caught my attention. I said, well, what exactly was going on? Governor Abiodun joins us live from the capital of Ogun State, Abeokuta. Thank you so much for your patience tonight, and thank you for speaking with us tonight, Governor Abiodun. With us tonight, Governor Abiodun. With us tonight, Governor Abiodun.
Thank you very much, Sheung.
Right, give us an insight, because I know you're one of those who led the private sector to meet with the president. The CNG, because part of the protest that we have seen started today is also one thing that the government said after the removal of subsidy, that it will do an initiative that will help Nigerians live an easier and cheaper alternative to moving around, which is a CNG alternative. And you are one of the 4 states in the country that moved fast. And 2 days ago, we saw you riding on that bike. Was that for pleasure or to show that the CNG is here with us?
Thank you very much, Sheung, for having me. Yes, you saw me only yesterday riding a CNG, and actually an electric bike. But let's take a step back. Sometime last year, precisely October 23, 2023, we launched our CNG mass transit bus program, which was basically the launch of the conversion of all our state-owned buses, our Hardship buses, to be fueled with compressed natural gas. And she will let me admit that this was because we knew that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was going to deregulate. And this was the posture that all the presidential candidates, when they were jostling and asking for votes, every single one of them had made up their minds to deregulate. So as the state government and as the responsible one, we had begun to forward looking in that direction. And we started that program, knowing fully well that as soon as that regulation becomes real, it would affect the cost of transportation of people, of goods, of services, and of food items. So what we did in October was to actualize and domesticate the Renewed Hope initiative to begin to cushion the effects of subsidy removal. That was our phase one. And yesterday was the implementation of our phase two, which is our e-mobility launch, which showcased electric motorbikes, electric tricycles, CNG tricycles, and electric vehicle. So you saw me, yes, I rode, I ride, I used to ride back in the days when I was probably your age. And these are things that you don't forget. But more importantly, what we strive to achieve is to reduce drastically the cost of transportation. Because when you deregulate, and particularly at this period in time, we find that people are agitating about food prices, which is called in other terms food inflation. One of the major elements and contributors to food inflation is the cost of transporting food items. I recall earlier on today, someone gave an example that he bought yam in Lagos for a particular price, and he bought yam somewhere in Ikire for about maybe 10% of that price. And you find out that basically the difference between the cost of what he bought in Ikire and in Lagos is because of the cost of transportation of food items. So this is what we set out to achieve. And I must say that we have been very successful in achieving that objective. When we launched our CNG buses, it actually crushed, the cost of transportation of our people within Abeokuta and between Ogun State and Lagos. So we actually forced down the prices of the minibuses that are transporting people from that corridor, Mowe-Ibadan, all the way to Lagos. Now, let me give you a classical example so you can properly understand the impact of what we did yesterday. We launched the e-bikes, as we call them, and those e-bikes do not have any engines. They don't need to be serviced. All they have is a battery that's practically noiseless. And emission is zero. It means that we can now beat our chest and say that we are not polluting. And we know that pollution these days is the cause of a lot of things that we can't even explain in terms of environmental impact. Now, we are now going to drastically reduce the cost of transportation, which is a very popular means of transporting our people around here and along the nooks and crannies of our state, by about 45%. These e-bikes, all they need is to have their battery swapped. Once the bike is charged, it will power that bike for about 75 to 80 kilometers on a single charge. And we have swap stations that are strategically located around the state now. It would take approximately 2 to 3 minutes for a cyclist to drive his bike in and swap, the battery for a charged one, thereby creating another, small or medium scale enterprise for those people who are running those swap stations. So in one breath, we are reducing cost of transportation, which we packed food inflation. In another breath, we are reducing pollution. And also by so doing, we've created another small economy for those who will be operating those swap stations. But let me give you another practical example. We also launched yesterday a particular CNG-powered tricycle. That tricycle, a comparable tricycle powered by petrol, would travel about 120 kilometers on fuel that will cost about 14,000 naira. The one we launched yesterday will travel the same distance on CNG that will cost 1,900 naira. So like I said, all we've done in Ogun State is domesticate the Asiwaju Renewed Hope initiative, which seeks to ensure that regardless of the fact that there's been deregulation, this should provide the cushion effect that is required to reduce the cost of transportation and also
Abiodun, if I may jump in quickly. Yeah, if I may jump in quickly. I'd like to know, and before I come back into the details of how these will affect or have effect on the pocket or the monies in the pocket of the average person. Why is it that it's only Ogun State that we are hearing that is doing this? This is supposed to be with yourself and your 35 other brothers, governors across the Federation, plus the FCT. This initiative was supposed to ameliorate the sufferings that the removal of subsidies should have brought to the country. Are you the only one who got the funding for the CNG and the alternative transport scheme?
Well, Shivu, thank you very much for that question. I think perhaps because we have different peculiarities amongst our different states. I am the gateway to the rest of the country. I am the closest state to the financial capital of Nigeria. I am the industrial capital of Nigeria. I also enjoy one advantage. I have an advantage of having a large amount of gas population in my state. The WAPIL, the West African Gas Pipeline, passes through my state. The pipeline that goes all the way from Mori comes through my state and goes all the way to Obajana, to go to Ibeche, that's the cement factory in Ibeche. And that is what explains the proliferation of industries in my state, because we have gas and gas is used for power. So for me, I saw that as an advantage and I took advantage of that. It was not because there was any special funding. We have not been given any special funding by the federal government. Let me make that clear. It's just because the nature of my state, the size of my state, the proximity to Lagos, the fact that I'm a gateway state, I realized that it is important for me to, immediately cash in on this initiative and provide an alternative means of transportation that will cushion the effect of deregulation, which when Asiwaju came, rightly so, he said there was no reversal on this monster that was consuming almost 500 to 600 billion naira a month, and that was as of then. I'm not sure.
But Governor Abiodun, Governor Abiodun, as far back as what month is it? Sometimes about 2 months or a month ago, there were reports that the federal government was going to give about how much now? 10 billion naira to each state for the CNG buses for mass transit to reduce the transportation cost. Are you saying that that money has not been disbursed yet? This is about 2 months ago.
The problem we have as Nigerians is that we're very impatient. From the announcement of a policy to the implementation of that policy takes a period of time. Now, in the case of this CNG initiative, there's actually a presidential CNG initiative team that has been working assiduously day and night to ensure that what we've done in Ogun State is replicated across the length and breadth of the country. But let me tell you some of the intricacies. The CNG kit is not like a COVID kit where you just buy. One cap doesn't fit all. Those kits are proprietary to type, make, and model of vehicles. So you just can't buy kits and send them to state and say, here is, 5,000 kits, just, begin to convert vehicles. So it's taking that much time to ensure that they have a system in place, which I know they are working on now, like they did in Iran, where they have the kits for the kind of vehicles that are commonplace in Nigeria, such that you log on their site, you key in your type, make, model of vehicle, and where you are, they allocate a time to you, you bring your vehicle in, and they convert it. So be rest assured that even though I'm not trying to speak for them, but because I have the privilege of knowing what they are working on, they are working on this. And you can imagine what we've done in Ogun State, we've only done in the state that's of about 5 million people. I mean, they are trying to do nationwide, dealing with almost about 190 to 200 million people. So I'm sure that in another few months, you'll begin to appreciate the amount of time, money, work, and energy that's gone into this rollout of the presidential CNG initiative. They are working on it, and the president is particularly, keen on ensuring that this scheme is successfully implemented. And I know that the person who headed it report to the president directly because of the president's interest in the success of this program.
So apart from the CNG buses, we understand that some transport organizations and unions are supposed to get some subsidies also with some CNG enabled vehicles to help them in their transport businesses. We also know that households, about 3-point-something million of households are supposed to get 50,000 naira each, because I know the pressure is not only on the federal government. When Nigerians are crying of hardship and hunger, the question is also on the 36 state governors and the FCT to say, what are you doing to make the purchasing power of the average person better? What are you doing to bring down food inflation and make the prices of commodities go down? The question will be, you are very close to President Bola Tinubu. You are an APC governor. The question that a lot of Nigerians will be asking, your party sold the renewed hope agenda in this agitation, and we saw that agitation on the streets of Abeokuta today also. Give us a sense of what Nigerians should expect when they are really angry and saying that this is not what they bargained for. It is not hunger. It is not poverty. It is not hardship that they bargained for. What would you say to them, Governor Abiodun, tonight?
Actually, what I would say to Nigerians today, boldly, is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has only been in office for a year and perhaps 3 months. It takes more than 15 months to reverse a trend that had permeated for a few years before his assumption of office. He pledged, he swore to certain principles and policies, and as soon as he was inaugurated, he immediately began the implementation of those very audacious, and deliberate policies. These are policies that previous administrations perhaps were not bold to implement. And these policies have been applauded by developmental banks, organizations all over the world. It would take time for their impact to begin to be felt by the common man. And he has promised. Yesterday, his minister expressed to all of us in Nigeria that Mr. President is aware of, the issues and the current realities, and he's working assiduously to ensure that he lives up to the expectations of our people. And when you look at the steps he's taken, immediately he assumed office and he announced that the regulation was real and there was no going back on it. They immediately begin to give out wage awards to all public servants. They did wage awards. Only recently, he signed off the minimum wage bill. That's a serious commitment. He began to implement students' loan. When in the history of this country have we heard of students' loan to tertiary institutions? Right now, they're implementing intervention schemes for the poor, the elderly, and the vulnerable across the entire country with a minimum of about 400 per ward. My state alone, I have 236 wards. And these schemes are ongoing. He's given out food palliatives to us governors several times because he understands the fact that, yes, while he's working on the monetary and the fiscal policies, that take time, for the impact to be felt. People must have food on their table. He's provided food. Now he's announced that they are removing, the import restriction on certain food items. And I know that this week, President, through the Minister of Agri, said rice must begin to be sold to people at 40,000 naira. He's provided for agri inputs, fertilizers. He's provided for maize, corn, sorghum. I mean, all within 1 year. What more do we expect from a man who we know has a proven track of knowing what to do while in office? He was governor of Lagos for 8 years. Lagos is the size of so many African countries. And Seun, you will agree with me that the current way of election is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Yesterday there were protests in Ghana, there are protests in the UK this week, there are protests in Kenya. I mean, the inflation is all over the world. So really, as much as I appreciate that our role as elected officers is to look out for the well-being and welfare of our people, Mr. President is doing his utmost best and he's deeply committed to it. And I believe that what we must do is to allow some time so that we can see, the full impact of these policies. The Naira has stabilized. And I'm sure that with the recent announcement of Mr. President's intervention in the Dangote and NNPC issue that was made to appear like a controversy, where Mr. President said that henceforth, crude must be sold to Dangote refinery and other refineries in Naira. That is someone who understands, having been a treasurer of one of the biggest companies in the world, understands that by doing this, it will reduce the pressure on the foreign exchange demand, knowing that 40% of Nigeria's foreign exchange is by the oil and gas industry. So you can imagine if this transaction is now being conducted in Naira, you will see that instant relief, the reduction in pressure from the demand for forex by the oil and gas sector. And I'm sure that would further reduce the exchange rate. And as that happens, you will see the multiplier effect in the economy. But the truth is that it's like the case of a woman who is about to give birth. She goes through a lot of pain, but at the end of the day, when she has that baby, everybody's happy. So I just want to plead that Nigerians give Mr. President time and all of us time as well. President is doing everything he can. He's mindful that his number one role is to provide food on the tables of our people. They're the ones that voted him in the office. And he says so many times that, look, don't pity me. I asked for this job. I campaigned for it. I spent money I invested to be president, and this is the only job I have. So, that is my message to Nigerians.
All right. Just for a moment, Governor Abiodun, I'd like to let our viewers know that we're standing by. We do have our eyes set at the police headquarters here in Abuja, where we are expecting to be briefed by the Inspector General of Police, Kaode Egbetokun, to give an update on what has happened today. There are reports of casualty, reports of incidents, pockets of incidents across the nation where some of these protests are held, and we're looking. As soon as he enters the room, of course, we will be joining him. Of course, the coverage continues right here on the channel television, and we have more insight. Let's get back our concluding moments with Governor Abiodun. There are those who will be asking the question, cost of governance. Maybe is one way to show Nigerians that the government is indeed hearing the agitation of the poor, and perhaps one way to show that the government is really listening. Is there anything that the government of the day is going to be doing in that respect? And of course, there are those who also will be tasking you and your colleagues on the cost of governance, that we spend far too much to fund the life and lifestyles of those who are in power or in government, and the average person is impoverished. The data says so much about the poverty and the poverty rate in the country, and how much an average person is suffering in hardship.
Well, Seun, without a doubt, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is a responsive one. This is the first time, and I'm glad that my brother SAN who spoke with you earlier, Mr. Falana, alluded to some things, even though I do not agree to most of the things he said today, but at least there's something I agree to, which is the fact that without saying the word, that this government is a responsive one. This is the first time that there will be an impending protest or civil disobedience, and government would go all out to ensure that they engage with diverse groups, explain to them what government is doing, what government has done, and what government intends to do. And by so doing, using moral suasion without forcing anybody, different groups began to come out, dissociating themselves, from the protest. That clearly indicates and confirms that this administration is one that is responsive to the needs of their people. So, I don't think that I need to say any further than that. That everything, the voices, the cries of our people are being heard from the local governments to the state governments and of course to the central government. And we are all working together. Last week we met with Mr. President. We are all working together. We have National Economic Council meetings once a month, and all we discuss is the economy of the country, and we all sit down, we contribute. In the fullness of time, you will see that the change, the Nigeria of our dreams that we're all yearning for, is just, in the immediate horizon. So I want to plead that our people, cost of governance, we hear you, and Mr. President made an announcement. He said Nigerians should ensure that public servants should ensure that they buy locally made vehicles. The vehicles must be powered by CNG. This is the first time we have a president who has, his fingers, on the button. He feels the pulse of our people. So for a president to come out and say that I'm now mandating that all public officers must, drive Nigeria-made vehicles, and those vehicles will be powered by CNG. It is a very bold statement that itself will drive, the opportunities that are bound in the sector. People are now going to be investing, and I know different initiatives and incentives are provided for people that are going to be assembling. And for example, yesterday, besides the fact that we launched our e-mobility, we also launched our gigafactory. What's a gigafactory? That's a factory that will begin to produce e-bikes, e-tricycles, and electric vehicles right here in Ogun State. And this has been made possible because of Mr. President's announcement. So, Sheung, this is a responsive government. I believe that all we ask for is for our people to appreciate that we hear them, we'll feel their pain, and in no time, some of the cushion that is being put in place will help in ameliorating their pain and suffering, and we all live to see Nigeria of our dreams in the very immediate future.
Yeah, we need to close this conversation, Governor. But Bob, before we do that, just in 30 seconds, there are those who do not believe in the Bola Tinubu project. There are those who did not vote for Bola Tinubu and the APC. And whatever is going on today, they will say, it serves you right, all of those who supported the APC. We told you they cannot get the job done. What do you tell them? Because you are one of those who raised President Bola Tinubu's hand that is the best man for the job. What do you tell them tonight? Who are those who are watching and seeing people going to the street in hunger, agitation across the land? Just in 30 seconds, what would you be saying to them?
So, majority of Nigerians voted for President Bola Tinubu. And majority of Nigerians...
Governor, majority of Nigerians didn't vote for Bola Tinubu. The figures didn't say so, sir. The figures didn't say so. It's one of the lowest. It's one of the lowest votes margin that we have seen in presidential election in years, sir.
No, what I'm saying is he won the election.
Yes, he won the election, yes, but the margin of victory compared to several other elections is one of the lowest that we have seen. is a keenly contested election where we have 3 contenders share the votes largely.
He majorly won that election, Shehu. And that says one thing. Those that wanted him to be president were far more than those that didn't want him to be president. The problem we have today is that Nigerians are sore losers. Rather than decide or accept the fact that if you want a regime change, wait till 2027. Don't begin to sponsor faceless, leaderless protests under the guise that you are dissatisfied. Yes, like I said, the current reality is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. What we are feeling here, in Ghana, there were protests in Ghana yesterday. There are protests in London today, in the UK. So what are we talking about, Shehu? So, like I said, the medicine for a headache is not to cut off the head. We must all work together, join hands together, and speak to each other. Let us have a dialogue that is constructive, knowing that you have a responsive administration in place.
All right. Thanks so much indeed, Governor Abiodun. Those kind of words are needed on a day like this because a lot of Nigerians, some of those who took to the street today, would like to hear words of assurance whether or not this government can be able to get a job done. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Shehu.
But do let me know, maybe you can send me your address. I have a little gift for you. I have a helmet that I'm no longer using. You might want to use it next you are riding on that bike. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shehu. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
I'll send you my address.
No problem. I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll switch gears now. We're still keeping our eyes on the Inspector General of Police, who is standing by to brief the nation on what happened today. I'm being joined by 2 gentlemen. One is the chair of the House Committee on the Navy and the representative House of Reps member representing Pankshin, Kanke, and Kanam in Plateau State in the House of Representatives, Honorable Yusuf Gadi. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sharon.
I have one of the conveners and the leaders of the protest today. Is a convener of the Concerned Nigerians and also a member of the Take It Back movement. Is a lawyer. Mr. Deji Adeyanju, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean, for having me. I'm not one of the conveners of the protest. I'm just one of the lawyers to the protesters.
Thank you so much for...
Thank you.
You don't want to take responsibility for what happened today?
There's nothing like taking responsibility. We'll gladly even participate in tomorrow's protest.
All right, we're looking at the IG at the moment, but as we hope to hear from him, Mr. Adeyanju, would you say the objective of your protest today has been achieved?
Apparently it has. Even before the protest started, the protest was already a success. Because the idea of protest is not just to hit the street. It's about agitation, making demands. The demands are so popular. For instance, the issue of return of fuel subsidy. Why are you giving governors all the money when you can, directly give the poor people and give the economy the money? After all, once the governors take the FAC, they actually give a token to the local government and overhead cost, and they almost instantly change the rest to dollars and stockpile it, which is unfortunate. The president thinks he's trying to save the nation by saving money. Even before the president started giving the governors triple of their monthly allocation, the governors were alleged of stealing money meant for their state. So why then give them more? Why then give them more of this money? So because the reason why there's hyperinflation in the country is because fuel directly affects... Sorry,
Comrade Adeyanju, let me pause you for a moment. Let's listen to the IG. We go live now to the police headquarters where the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, is now briefing the nation.
While some groups claiming to be mobilizing for peaceful protests were doing so with violent undertones, refusing to cooperate with the police on measures to be taken to guarantee peaceful protest. On the basis of this intelligence, the police advised that the protest should be shelved at this instant. Where the organizers insisted on going on with the protest, they were advised to stage the protest in confined locations. This will have enabled the police provide adequate protection for the protesters and isolate the criminals whose intention was to loot and destroy in the name of a protest. This we were doing in furtherance of our duty to protect lives and property and maintaining law and order. While we affirm the constitutional rights of citizens to assemble and express their views on issues of national importance, we were wary about the dangers posed by agitation instigated by some individuals who have shown tendencies to be disloyal to the government of the day. Despite our suspicions, we showed good faith through professional conduct by providing security at strategic locations, all aimed at ensuring peaceful conduct during the protest, as the promoters pledged. Our men deployed nationwide went out with a clear brief to ensure that no one is unnecessarily harassed or intimidated. In places where there were court orders, we gave instructions for observance of same. Regrettably, events in some major cities today show that what was being instigated was mass uprising and looting, not protest. Those who were in the forefront of promoting the idea of the protest were not around to lead it. Hoodlums have been let loose on innocent Nigerians and their hard-earned businesses and property looted and destroyed. The motive of the rioters was basically two: loot and destroy both private and government property. The destruction so far has been mind-boggling. There has been destruction in Kano, Borno, Yobe, Kaduna, Gombe, Bauchi, FCT, Abuja, Niger, and Jigawa. Police stations have been destroyed. There have been attempts to take over government houses, looting of government infrastructures. Several warehouses and shops so far have been looted and in several instances completely destroyed. In spite of the refusal of the protesters, for instance in FCT, to adhere to a court order requesting that protests in Abuja should be at the National Stadium, they trooped into the streets, and yet the police provided security for them. At no point did we breach their fundamental rights, even as they breached court orders. In places like FCT, Kaduna, Kano, and Gombe, among others, we recorded incidents of unprovoked attacks on our security personnel, where one policeman has been reported murdered and others seriously injured. We alerted earlier that terror elements may take advantage of the protest to infiltrate the crowd of protesters with suicide bombers. Yesterday in Lagos, our EOD team was informed of a suspected IED on Bakatoni Way, Ikeja. The team responded swiftly and rendered safe what turned out to be an improvised explosive device, IED. Today in Borno State, we recorded another incident of explosion, which occurred in the crowd of protesters, killing 4 instantly and severely injuring 34 others, many of whom are presently on danger list. We wish to advise law-abiding citizens of Nigeria to heed and not dismiss warnings given by the police and other security agencies, which were based on credible and actionable security intelligence. In the light of the current situation, the Nigerian Police Force has placed all units on red alert. Our officers are fully mobilized and prepared to respond swiftly and decisively to any further threats to public safety and order. We remain committed and resolute to protecting lives and property and ensuring that law and order are maintained across the nation. Groups who are hiding under the guise of exercise of a right provided in the Constitution to destabilize the country should also remember that the same Constitution imposed on them the duty to obey the laws of the land and respect the rights of other citizens. The police is equipped to respond appropriately to the unfolding situations and will get assistance from other security agencies, including the military, if the need arises. We appeal to all citizens to remain calm and cooperate with the police and other security agencies during this challenging period. Your safety is our top priority, and we will continue to take all necessary measures to ensure continued peace and stability in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector General Police.
The Inspector General Police, who's just been briefing the nation about the situation across the country, has told us about the attacks the death of a police officer, the kind of casualties that we have seen on civilian population in some parts of the country. And he says that all units of the police have been placed on red alert and will move swiftly on that. The Judge you were saying earlier, you're talking about the objective, but from what you have seen or heard today from the IG, what's your immediate response to that?
The IG's presser was filled with threats to the Nigerian people. It's completely unacceptable. The IGP does not have the right to donate or withdraw the right to protest to Nigerians. Neither does he have the right to even set guidelines on how people should protest. We had made him know this in our interaction with him a couple of days ago. It is also unfortunate that the IGP should be held responsible for all the violence that happened today in many parts of the country. I'll give you an instance and a simple example of the FCT. In the FCT, the people were hailing the military in Maraba because they were extremely professional. But they were the ones that provoked the attack in Maraba because they just, unprovoked, they just started attacking peaceful protesters and shooting at them. So the people reacted by booing them and by running to save their lives. How is that an attack on the police? And I challenge the IGP to bring the details of the police officer that he claimed was killed in any part of this country today. That it is a big lie. No police officer was killed today. Today alone, the IGP and his men killed several protesters in Borno. They killed several unarmed protesters in Kaduna. They killed protesters in Suleja. These guys should start.
These reports you are getting from your people on the ground?
They are all in the news, all on social media.
Videos
and documentary evidence to back up all these claims.
Some of which,
of people that have died. And that's why we challenge the Inspector General of Police to provide the details and particulars of the officer that he said died.
Honorable, let me bring you into the conversation. What would be your immediate reaction to what the police of the IG has said?
Well, I can't act on what the IG have said. I'm a representative of the people. I just had his press conference, and as a chief law officer, or if I may call it, someone that should protect the life of the citizen of this country from being killed and ensuring that there is peaceful coexistence within the four angles of Nigeria, he reserves the constitutional right to tell Nigerians what he is doing. And as a representative of the people too, I think we can ask him what he is doing. So for him to say what he has said, I think I cannot say whether he is right or wrong, because you cannot just hear something today. I've seen all sorts of pictures in the social media, yes. I've seen protesters with blood lying down in form of a dead bodies. I've seen that. I cannot claim that I have not seen people killed. I've equally seen a picture of a police officer that is claimed to have been killed. I've seen it in the social media. But to say anything about the statement of the Inspector General of Police, I think I'm incapacitated at this moment until I make due diligence.
Apologies, I need to pause you gentlemen for a moment because we're still keeping our eyes on the IGP. Is receiving questions from journalists. Well, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, more from my guest, and of course, we'll be getting responses from the IG. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back.
We had incidents where there were unprovoked attacks on policemen and other security agents. We are not going to accept that. So if I advise that they should just not bother to continue with this. When we talk about rights to protest, we are not denying the rights. We have said severally that we recognize the rights of citizens to protest. But this right is also not absolute right. The same constitution that gave them rights to protest also imposed duties on them. What our lawyers have been telling our youth is that it's their right, it's their right. Nobody is talking to the youth about their duties and responsibilities to the state. And that's the problem. These people should be educated. They should know that there are duties and responsibilities expected of them to the state. They only want to enjoy the rights and neglecting the duties. Those people who are claiming rights of protest, they should know that they have a duty to the nation to respect the rights of other citizens, to obey the law of the land, There is also a duty to be loyal to the state, to be patriotic. Is a constitutional responsibility of a citizen of Nigeria. Nobody is talking about all those duties and responsibilities. All we are talking about is rights, rights, and rights. Yes, it's good to know your rights, but it's not good to take the rights and neglect the duties. The two come together. Then why are we on red bands? If you listen to my address, I said that all our commands and units have been put on red alert. So the red bands we are wearing signifies, it's a symbol. Once you see us on red, just know that our commands are on red alert. Okay, there is this other one that said that the group who did not obey the court order claimed that they were not served. How do you serve faceless people? People that you don't know. How do you serve them with the orders? They remain faceless. So it will be difficult to serve them. Their threats were in social media. I think the other two was on social media. So I believe they have been served. The Channels reporter reported an attack on himself by protesters.
TVC and TVC.
Francis, was it not Francis? Okay. Francis said that he was also attacked while going to work. Francis is not a policeman. I don't know how he got attacked. So it shows that the intention of these so-called protesters are not genuine. Otherwise, why do you attack a reporter who is not in uniform? Then they claim that the police first of all attacked them and they responded. It's false. If you say that, if you believe their claim that the police were attacked, the police attacked them before they attacked the police, I will ask you, you are also a victim of the attack. Did you also attack them before they attacked you? You didn't attack them and they attacked you. So the police didn't attack them, they attacked the police without provocation. And I have said, we are not going to allow that, we are not going to accept that. That's totally unacceptable to us. Yeah, there was this one on, I don't know whether this is a question. You said that the police appeared overwhelmed. We were not overwhelmed. We have our standby units everywhere. We prepare for this. We were only civil. The fact that we were civil does not mean that we were weak. We were only civil because we were expecting them to be peaceful. I think I've answered your questions.
I'm sure, gentlemen of the press, that you don't have any intervention again, and IGP has cleared all those green areas. The IGP, sir, we want to appreciate the IGP and other members of the force management team and very senior officers who have been on the field. We have been managing this for a very long time. And I think we just want to tell gentlemen of the press that you please be mindful of fake news that will come. I know one of the challenges we're going to have is the spread of fake news. We want to urge all of us to be mindful of what we copy and paste, and what we share. This might trigger this crisis. The IGP has made it clear we are all on red alert. And we all tell same to Nigerians, Hakuna Matata. were in charge. Thank you. The IGP will come to the end of this press briefing. Very senior officers, thank you so much. Gentlemen of the press, thank you so much. We continue to update you back to back as events unfold. God bless you all.
Thank you.
In the face of the interim order that has been flying around, I was served a copy of the court order at the venue of the protest by the FCT Police Commissioner. I've looked at the order, the face of the order. The order did not restrict Nigerians from protesting in any part of Abuja. There are defendants that are named on the face of the order. If they've served those defendants, good luck to the police. The idea of inserting persons unnamed goes to no issue because we've done a proper review of the order. Nigerians are known people. If you want the order to apply to Nigerians, they know what to do. You have to. Someone who is not named in a suit cannot be directly affected by the suit or the positive order of the court. And in fact, with all the issues around the interim order, we still advise protesters to stay at the National Stadium. The CPFCT command was trying to force protesters into the stadium. And we said, we are not here to play a football match. We don't have to go to the turf to play football. We are at the National Stadium. And protesters were apprehensive that they wanted to lock them inside the National Stadium. And while the CP was insisting on that, we saw security vans. They drove 6 buses, 6 luxurious buses with thugs at the National Stadium. That was what necessary. And the whole media, everybody was there. So this can be verified.
But that was what necessitated the protesters. What do you make of the fears of the government? The government had warned that this could escalate.
Yes.
And it could turn violent. And looting could happen. Exactly what they feared happened today.
The lootings that happened were by government thugs. You know, we've been warning over a week ago that government will try to quell the protests like we saw in Abuja today. And that people are too hungry that if they mobilize thugs, these thugs will not go home. This is not 2020 during NSAS when people were still not this hungry. We warned them over a week ago that they should not mobilize thugs. That if they mobilize thugs, the thugs will go against them. And this is what we saw or we have seen happening. Additionally, it's important to note that, in fact, many of the pictures of looting that the police were referencing turned out to be old pictures that have been on the internet. And a first PRO in one of the northern states was seen spreading this fake news. So before the build-up to the protest yesterday, the government people were circulating a fake press release by the Take It Back to having called off the protest. So all ideas about propaganda has failed in this protest. And it is still going to fail. Government should, while we sympathize with government, especially the federal government, because it appears that all attention is about the federal government and we are overlooking the states. The states last month got 1.3 trillion from federal government allocation. Then they got an additional 38 billion from the COVID funds. What have they done with it? These states, they loot the treasury, they are not accountable. So Nigerians should also make specific demands on the protest, on the politicians. Additionally, sir, it is important to state that whether anybody likes it or not, the protesters have defined demands. If the president begins to meet some of the demands today, in fact, we had said that...
What are these demands?
Yes, issue of returning fuel subsidy. It is better to subsidize for the Nigerian people than to be subsidizing for politicians. We are subsidizing for the governors. It is not a sustainable approach to governance. If you subsidize, and every nation in the world does subsidy of some kind, even the developed nations. So if we subsidize fuel, it directly affects almost everything that has to do with our economy. We are also saying that politicians should not be paid wages. It should be a part-time job.
Which of them? The National Assembly?
All, with no exception.
Including the ones in the executive?
Including the ones in the executive. Nigeria is too broke for the principal members of the National Assembly to be having thousands of aides. Nigeria is too broke. Nigeria is too broke for ministers to be having hundreds of aides. Heads of parastatals are having hundreds of aides. Nigeria is too broke for that. That the idea behind this protest is that we have a fundamental problem. We can't just keep blaming the president. when this president came, he said he wants Nigerians to make sacrifices. Nigerians started making sacrifices from day one of this government. They were paying 167 naira. They started paying almost 700 naira per liter of fuel. Have Nigerians not sacrificed enough in the last 1 year? Look at the hyperinflation. The sacrifice of Nigerians are even affecting the economy. It is time for the politicians to also make sacrifices. Another demand of the protesters is the issue of insecurity. I didn't know that the police can suddenly be on red alert over protest. But there's no red alert about the insecurity problems in the country. So it means it is intentional. They don't want the insecurity in the country to stop. It's some form of business. You need to see the grandstanding and the bravado, despite all our efforts to work with the police today, all across the country. I can speak specifically for the FCT. We made concerted efforts to make sure that the protests did not degenerate in every part of the FCT. But the police, it's like they had an order from the Inspector General of Police that at some point, it was peaceful until we got to the 3am area. They fired more than 500 tear gas canisters. They even ran out of tear gas.
Were you there?
I was there live. So Nigerians were there. People made videos for the Inspector General of Police, I do not have any problem with him, for him to come on live TV and say that it was the protesters that attacked the police.
Before I allow you to go, Ebon Adegboruwa has advised the protester that they should reduce the protest to just today.
Yes.
Will the protesters yield to that call?
Ebon Adegboruwa is very well respected by many stakeholders, that are offering services to the protesters. But I'm one of the lawyers representing the protesters. Do I have the right to advise the protesters that they should reduce protest to
But will you be going to the street tomorrow?
Yes, of course, because the idea is to ensure that the rights of Nigerians are not violated.
People are asking for engagement. If you...
We are not advanced to engagement.
How do you want to make this happen?
You see, that was one of the mistakes we made during NSAS. No talk, no negotiation with government. At all. We don't even want to sit down with government. Today, if the president, who is the father of the nation, calls us and say, we want that I have listened to your demands. After all, sovereignty belongs to the people, from wherein the government derives all its powers, according to Section 14 of our Constitution. And the president says, oh, my citizens, I have decided to bring back fuel subsidy. Fuel will now be sold for 200.
But there are no budgets for that again.
But we could suddenly make budgets for the new presidential jet. We could buy a ship. All the expenditures that we've... Look at, they took how many people to Dubai for that conference? Do you know how much we spent?
There are those who say that there's been an evil about the subsidy for years. How do you want to bring back that evil? It's servicing just a few instead of the majority of Nigerians.
It services our economy. Why is the president servicing the governors? Why is the president taking all the resources of the country and giving it to the governors? See, we sympathize with the president. If the president offers genuine solutions and takes specific steps to meet some of the demands of the protesters, believe me, this time will be different from the NSAS when we have a zero policy and say, we will not even listen to government.
So you don't want any engagement. The only engagement you want is the president to take action.
The president...
You don't want to sit down with the president.
We will engage the president when we know that at least... This is what the protesters are saying. Because I confer with them. I was conferring with them even on my way here. And I'll still begin to confer with them immediately. We've taken the offers for engagement because government has continually putting out the offer for engagement. However, the protesters are saying, before we go and meet the president, before we engage, even FCT minister who was grandstanding the day before yesterday, is now saying that they want to engage the protesters. Before him and Asai Dokubo said protest will never happen. So the idea is, before we go for any engagement, let's have specifics. As a responsible government, these are the steps we are willing to take. Protesters will say, yeah, and believe me, in all of this, the government should be most worried about the unannounced protest, which is inevitable with the way the country is being run. Thank God that these protests have a date. It has timelines, they have demands. That's why the IG is still issuing threats on national TV. Let us be more worried for the unannounced protests that will not have date and that will not have time.
Finally, before I allow you to go, because I know that you said you want to run now, the big question is that orders have been given, don't move beyond it. Are you worried about the flouting of those orders?
As a lawyer, I am, as a lawyer, because it is our duty to advise the protesters. But you know that the Constitution is explicit. It said sovereignty belongs to the people. I know the voice of the people is the voice of God. The government exists because of the people. It's very simple. The Court of Appeal has ruled in the AMPP case, which Leonard Senior Femi Falana litigated for the then AMPP, Buhari and others that were tear-gassed in Kano, that you cannot restrict protesters to a specific place. So while I am advising the protesters to take steps like they did today, you know, all they need to show is that they've taken steps to comply with the order by being at the Moshood Abiola. The government brought thugs, and government forced them out of the place. So their further actions can be explained within the context of the rule of law.
So you and your friends, as you advise, they will be going out tomorrow.
Yes.
And you want government to take action. Those are your plans.
We are looking forward to working with the police and other security agencies to make the protests as peaceful as possible all across the country.
All right. Eji Adeyanju is a lawyer and is a convener of the Concerned Nigerians, and is also one of those who are legally advising the protester. Thanks so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, Honorable Yusuf Gagdi has been with us. You've been listening, and intentionally, I wanted you to listen to the lawyer to the protesters. Give me a sense of how you assess this whole scenario as it played out altogether since morning.
Well, I am not here to join issues with lawyers or the protesters, but I appreciate having the privilege to listen to one of the lawyers to the protesters of the demands of the professors. But before I say anything, I want to be proud of where I'm coming from and be proud of my age group, being one of the youths of this country. And as a representative of the people, I say it without any fear of contradiction, that I stand with the people and with the yearning of the people. Why am I proud, Shehu? I'm proud because I'm from Plateau State. You've had the press conference, press statements of the Inspector General of Police mentioning states where there were breakdown of laws and order. And I'm very sure Plateau State was not mentioned. And in all the protests that I have followed, I have seen leaders that today I stand bold to say I respect them. Leaders like the former Minister of Sport, Solomon Dalung, as well as Prophet Isa El-Buba, who were part of the protest, leading protesters in Plateau in a very civil manner, in a very respectable manner, respecting the rights of the traders, the right of the motorists, the right of the people of Plateau State. And I wish to say, without any fear of contradiction, that just like some other states in Nigeria, I think we should learn from the protests that took place in Plateau State today. We have learned our lesson. We are not willing, the people of Plateau are not willing to destroy lives, properties of the citizens of the state, but they are willing to advocate for good governance. They want a just and egalitarian society. They want a society that is free, that provide equal opportunities for all citizens. And I commend the protesters of Plateau for being very modest, for being very respectful, for respecting that, yes, protests can take place in a very democratic and conducive environment. But again, the lawyer have spoken. I am not here to speak for government, not even the National Assembly, because I'm not the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, let alone any of the leadership of the House of Representatives. I'm here to talk for myself and perhaps the people I represent in the country. That is the people of Panshinkanke Kanam Federal Constituency, which I have commended, that I am proud to come from Plateau. But again, you see, protest should be done like it is done in Plateau State. We are, including myself, advocating for good governance. We are saying that the suffering, the hunger, the insecurity that is happening in the four angles of Nigeria must be reduced to the barest minimum. Yes, agree. But in the course of doing that, if you don't do it peacefully like it is done in Plateau, you end up destroying institutions of government that are established with the taxpayers' money. This same taxpayers' money that you are advocating for prudency, that you are advocating that it should be used judiciously in such a manner that it should reduce the suffering that is being faced by the Nigerian people. You end up, bringing down institutions that are established with same taxpayers' money, that at the end, it is the same money that you want it to be judiciously put into use, used to put together those facilities.
One of the agitations of the protesters is that they do not want full-time lawmakers. You are one of the lawmakers.
Yeah.
Are you willing to cut your salary? Or are you willing to be a part-time lawmaker? This is one of the agitations.
Shehu, whatever the Nigerian people advocate for, I am with them, for better, for worse. See, prior to this moment, I have not expected that I will be a member of the House of Representatives. I am one of the representatives, I say it without sounding immodest, that speak for my people. I don't speak for government. I speak for the people I represent. Then if the people I represent today, should there be any decision by the people of Nigeria that yes, my salary should be cut, why will I challenge that? Should there be any position by the people of Nigeria that yes, we should run a part-time parliamentary system of government, why should I be envious of that?
But do you think in your own right that some of you, the political class, are so changing the Nigerian people? You are getting so much that the impoverished Nigerians are languishing in poverty, while you and some of your friends are really, really enjoying the money the taxpayers are putting into this country.
I have two things to say here. When you generalize statement, I think that is unfair to the system. I am a parliament. Nigeria practice presidential system of government and practice bicameral system of legislature, where you have the Senate and the House of Representatives. I think this is where the people say we should have either scrap one of the bicameral system to practice a unicameral system of government, which if that is the decision of the people, I agree. But to generalize that anybody in government is using taxpayers' money to live his life, I think I will personally take exception into that. People elected us to come to House of Representatives and Senate, including the president himself. The people that elected us to be where we are, they know the antecedent of these people they have elected to be where they are. If, for instance, a member from Plateau has been living maybe a very comfortable life with the businesses he does, and today you have elected, you cannot draw a conclusion that all people that are elected to represent people in the National Assembly.
You don't think that
with taxpayers' money? You have asked me, I have answered one.
Yeah, just a moment. And following up on the one that you are answering, you don't think that the lives of the Nigerian political elite is too ostentatious, is too flashy for the kind of... You will only understand that answer if I tell you what is expected of a parliament. I am a parliament. I think the life of some Nigerian politicians is not worthy of living, particularly as regard to their offices. I am a parliament that is expected to make laws for peace, order, and good governance. You want minimum wage, you expect the National Assembly to make laws to adjust such system. You want, yes, a reform policing system, you expect the National Assembly to make laws and make sure that Nigeria compete with all the developed or developing countries of the world in terms of their pieces of legislation. And Sheung, I have 5 legislative aides. I have senior legislative aides. I have assistant legislative aide. I have legislative aide. I have a secretary and a PA. Now I am elected with 5, including my researches, are expected to be conducted by those 5 legislative aides. Here you have an appointee of a government, a minister, for instance. I have 1 car, yes, that people clamor, yes, National Assembly have bourgeoisies of car. I expect the leadership. 60 million
yes,
worth of car.
I don't have that. I have a Prado. I don't know how much it is purchased.
No, we understand it is given
to me.
40 million or 160 million.
But my brother, let me tell you one politics surrounding that. This is not what we should be talking about. But let me use an opportunity to speak about that. I have my payslip here. If I have a car given to me as a member elected by the people to represent 3 local government, 1 car, which is expected for me to use it, travel home and engage the people, that at the end of the day, that money for such car is being deducted from my salaries. That money for allowances that people are talking about is being deducted from my salaries.
Is it being deducted?
It's being deducted. I can prove to you as I'm seated today, it is here.
What do you earn as allowance and salary as a lawmaker?
I earned as my basic salary and allowances as a lawmaker is 1,333,250.
That's your salary.
That it is here with my payslip.
What about your allowance? That's the basic salary.
Allowance is not given to me as a member.
Where do you...
The leadership of the house run the house. I am not expected to give a person that maintains the lifts of the house, to give a cleaner of the National Assembly, to give drivers to all the National Assembly Service Commission, to pay the salaries of those members of the National Assembly Service Commission. Now, if you are...
all your staff, just remember, all your legislative aides and staff are being paid directly by the National Assembly.
Certainly, even in my salaries, only my PA 42,000 is being provided for, and I'll transfer it to your phone so that next time when you are talking here, you talk. What I want Nigerians to understand, I'm not here to defend political office holders. I'm not here to defend National Assembly, but I wanted to make an example for you to understand one thing. As an elected representative, that is what I am being paid. And here, with one car, you have appointed a minister. You didn't give him the status of a member of the House of Representatives, and the work that a member of a National Assembly does supersedes that of the appointed minister. But here you have a minister with a Land Cruiser, with a backup Land Cruiser, with a Hilux, with a backup Hilux, with aides, more than that of a legislator that represent the people. I think we need a different time for this conversation. What I'm here for...
But you are the ones oversighting the executive.
Yes.
You are the one approving the money to buy... Just for a moment. Yeah. You are the one approving and appropriating the monies meant to buy the vehicles for the ministers.
Yes.
Why didn't you stop it?
That is why, if you ask me today, the agitation that is being conducted by the people of Nigeria should have been conducted by we, the representative of the people of Nigeria. Because you are in a political office position, when the truth comes, you say the truth. In times of the suffering, the hardship, this high cost of living, you are elected to represent the people. Speak for the people and ensure those things are being...
So you have the opinion, you agree, Honorable,
without any,
that the political elite is being overfed. Why the Nigerian people are hungry?
Absolutely, absolutely. Without any fear of misrepresentation. I say this any day, anytime. I've given you an example. Let any minister of the Federal Republic come here and tell me that his convoy is not bigger than that of the member of the House of Representatives or the Senate. If you see any parliament, excluding the principal officers of the National Assembly, running a convoy, he is running it at his own cost. It is not government allocated vehicles or what. But you appoint someone, look at budgets of ministries. If National Assembly exercises and discharges some of this oversight function you are saying correctly, which we are trying our best, I think some of these things will be reduced. But the ministries that I'm even talking about, sometimes it's not every money that is being provided for directly through the budget. They have intervention from the government, particularly the central government. In this circumstance, if you are not privileged to appropriate allocation of such funds to those political office holders, you will not know how to trim, limit, or oversight on those. So we are improving, I'm sure. I have tell you without any fear of contradiction.
So the protest is justified from your own point of view?
But the actions of the protesters in vandalizing public institutions that set obviously their demands was to ensure an enhancement in the standard living condition of the people. Their demand was to ensure the prudency in the utilization of taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money are used to establish institutions. But call them protesters or whatever name, they have used themselves to vandalize such institution that is being established by taxpayers' money. And again, it is the same taxpayers' money you will use to fix those NCC office in Kano and other. How does peaceful protest relate to a pharmacy in Kano, a business person that is operating his business in Gombe, and all the states that you have those breakdown of laws and other? That is why I say protest of Plateau is legitimate. I support them. I agree with them for their peaceful nature, where you see people irrespective of political party, irrespective of religion. You have seen it in social media, Sheung, where Muslims were praying Zuhur prayer today. It is Christian from Plateau that provided security for them in one designated protest venue. They prayed and they moved on with respect, with the identity of the leaders that led such protests. I have mentioned Professor El Buva to you here. I have mentioned former Minister of Sport to you. I have seen them in social media peacefully, proudly holding the Nigerian flag and saying that there must be an end to the harshness in the standard living.
Is that a
condition
credit
of the
to
people.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang?
I don't know. It's credit to the people of Plateau.
All right, let's take a break. I'll come back. There's so much more to talk about this protest and the way forward. The most important aspect of all of these is the lesson that we need to take. The government, the Nigerian people, those who are in power, about the state of our nation. This is the giant of Africa, everyone. We need to really realize our status on the planet Earth. We are big. Nigeria is a big country in the world. And we need to realize that we give us a sense of the need, urgent need for us to move forward. But we'll take a break, everyone. When we return, we'll be giving you more insight, some perspectives from some other states. When we return, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, on our continued coverage of the End Bad Governance protest, which is taking the nation by storm in some sense, because we've seen a lot of action and reaction, counteraction, and, of course, some escalation leading to violence and skirmishes that we've seen, of course, in Rivers State. The governor came out to meet some of the protesters whom he commended in the state for being peaceful, despite the reality of the economic hardship which prompted the agitation. Of course, when he made some offers to them, it caused some of them to respond in some ways. But let me allow you to see the scenes in Rivers. This is Port Harcourt earlier today. Take a listen to Governor Siminalayi Fubara.
Problems to the federal government. Like I said, it is not easy. It is not easy. But we know quite all right that very soon everything will be well. Starting from our own state. Starting from our own state, everything will be well. What we just need is to support the government. Support the government. Support the policy. In the beginning of the policy, it might be harsh, but at the end, everything will be fine.
That was the situation earlier today in Port Harcourt, the capital of Rivers State in South Nigeria. In the southeast, of course, Governor Hope Uzodinma, who is also the chair of the APC Governors Forum, has been speaking about the implication of an escalation of the protest and warning Nigerians to take heed to the call for calm and patience for the government to deliver on its promises. Take a listen to Senator Hope Uzodinma, the governor of Imo State.
Well, I have called for wise counsel to prevail. First, I start by thanking Almighty God and also my people, particularly not only Imo State, from the whole southeastern region, for agreeing and resolving not to participate in this protest. Because you can see, experience has shown that over the years, each time there is any violent protest, Igbos pay dearly for it. The shops being looted in Kano belongs majorly to Igbo people. The one in Lagos, the one in Borno State, the one in Yobe State. So for anybody to support the disability of our businesses, to say the least, is not acceptable to an average Igbo man. So I think also from us, but with what we have seen, that the current agitation, which is contrived by aggrieved politicians.
That's Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State earlier today. Let's get back to our conversation and our concluding moment with Honorable Yusuf Gagdi from Plateau State. Fundamentally, some Nigerians would love, especially some of the protesters who are agitated, would love if there are some reactions, especially in cutting down the expenses, the money that goes into servicing the lives and lifestyles of those who are in power. There are those who will even argue. You are saying that some of what you get as a lawmaker is modest compared to a minister. There are those who will say, look, in fact, all of these scenarios are incorrect in the sense that those who are serving Nigeria should not be getting so as much. You said you're serving 3 local government areas. You see, you have a House of Assembly member, you have a senator in that representation. And all of these monies are used to service the people that are supposed to serve the people.
Well, Shehu, one thing I will tell you for free, and I will not hesitate saying, is that the nature of Nigerian democracy make it possible for members of the parliament at both states, local states, and the federal level to be under pressure based on the principle of our democratic trinity. Why? Because you contest election and go to meet people in their doorstep to ask for vote for you to be where you are. So as a result of that, there is a familiarity between you, the representative of the people, and the people because you stand for the people. It differs with someone that perhaps is not known even in a political cycle, and tomorrow he is appointed a supervisory councillor at the local government level, a commissioner at the state level, or a minister, as the case may be, at the federal level. They have not interacted with the people the way all of the representatives of the people have done that. So, analyzing the easiest person that a Nigerian have access to is his own representative. A senator, a member of a House of Representatives, a state assembly member, or a councillor. The access that the people of Nigeria have with the minister, it's not as open as go to National Assembly and see the people that visit National Assembly, because it is people's
But
assembly.
Nigeria cannot afford it. We may be living an ostentatious life. And when I say we, I'm saying as a nation.
Sean, we should not read my role. I have told you this up initial.
What should you and your colleagues be doing?
If today,
yes,
the Nigerian people decide to say that we should even practice parliamentary system of government, I have no problem with that. I have where ministers are chosen within the elected parliament. I have no problem with that.
We're talking about 360 members of the House of Reps, 109 members of the Senate. So people are saying in the reality of Nigeria today, maybe we do not need that number of the...
I am not here to defend that. If that is what Nigerians want, I am optimistic. I stand with the Nigerian people. But again, I have told you something off record here. Let me make it public. You have 360 representatives and 109 senators. The budget, including over 1,000 staffs of the National Assembly. The budget of the National Assembly is not 1/3 of the budget of some of the ministries of government that is being budgeted by the National Assembly themselves, brought as a proposal by the executive. So, what I want is this. There are bold issues that even the National Assembly itself, plus the people of this country, like the people are advocating, they want a free and democratic society, I agree. They want a just and egalitarian society, I agree. They want a land that is bright and equal opportunities for the representative and the people they represent. I agree. So and that is why I tell you, I gave you example with Plateau. There is a protest. It is peaceful. The demands are there. I believe we have a listening president. Let him look at those demands. Let him speak to Nigerians. Let him see the way out of what Nigerians are advocating.
You are a leader of the APC, and there is so much agitation against your party. What would you say that the president should do immediately to douse this agitation?
To first study the demands of the genuine protesters. Genuine protesters. Because I can tell you for free that political class in Nigeria, most of us are not patriotic and are not responsible. Because you can, from the statement of some of this political class in opposition to APC, I don't want to bring politics in this, where you see some leaders in some states are equally using their Twitter pages, using their statement with engagement with members of the press to call for the protest. Not even cautioning that the protest must be peaceful, like it is being peaceful in Adamawa, in Plateau, and some other states. Politicians took advantage take it or leave it. In some states, there is political tune too. The destructions of government institutions, the destructions to businesses owned by private individuals. If the political class were responsible and responsive, I believe me, protests will be peaceful like the one in Plateau, and it will achieve its purpose of one, president sitting down to listen to the demand of the protesters, call the leaders of those protesters on board. They are human beings. You are the president for the people of this country, include both the good and the bad. Then look at the legitimate. What are those conversations? What are those issues that if responded to quickly by government, it will, one, ensure, it's not about calling off protests. It's about action of government that will ensure that Nigerians are eating. Action of government that will ensure that a common man on the street can afford 3 daily meals with 1,000 or 500 like it used to be. Inflation, economy, call it whatever. The common man in Nigeria doesn't even know what economy is all about.
I mean, those
doesn't
who are
even know
already
inflation.
judging your party to say your party has failed, what do you say to them tonight?
There is no party. In the history, if you give anybody leadership, there is no aspect of that leadership that if you are allowed to be judged, that you will not be found responsible for some defect and deficiency. A lawyer sat here and told you the amount of money that is being sent to the states and the local government. Someone have come here to tell you the effort. I'm not here to speak for president. I am here to speak for the people of this country. I'm here to speak for Panchin Kanke Kana Federal Constituency. But at the risk of taking risks to respond to your question, money are being channeled to governors. Do we hold them accountable and responsible for multi-billions of naira that is being allocated to them on monthly basis? What about the money that is sent to the local government council? Have we seen development or initiative at the local government level and state level that seems to complement what the president perhaps may be doing at the national level? At the 36th show, let me ask you, if you are judging my party, if we should be political, the 36 state governors are not all from APC. Tell me, are the people distinguishing the governor that is on the platform of APC or PDP or Labour Party or ABGA in transforming their life? No. They are generally saying government. And in defining government, in this sense of the word, in the true sense of it, as in the case of this protest, you cannot exonerate other political parties of failing. Because the senators have APC and PDP, yes?
Your party is at the center.
Yes.
The indices of our national life is being controlled by the action or inaction of the government at the center. And how do you defend that anyways? There are those who will say, look, in the last few months, maybe and maybe not, some of the ministers in the cabinet have not stepped up to the plate. They're not doing...
As a parliament, I agree with those people that the ministers, you cannot say all of the ministers have performed. Ask me to rate them. I have performed oversight function. I belong to so many committees. But again, your work as a parliament is to call the agency or the ministry in this case to order that we have appropriated this amount. What have you done with this and that? It is not your responsibility to fire any minister. It is only your responsibility to say that that ministry did not perform to expectation. And in this sense,
what do you say to those who are asking for the president to sack some of his cabinet members?
I think if I'm the president, I would have sacked most of them for lack of performance in the administration. People have hope in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. People know his performance as a Lagos state governor. I have come here to tell you that I prefer Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu before election, a governor that have transformed one of the most difficult states into one of the most developing economy in Africa. I have said that here. I have come here to say that. Then the expectation of Nigerians is that the ministers will support the president in delivering good governance and dividends of democracy. I'm not saying all of them have failed, but take it or leave it. As a parliament, I speak for Nigerians. I cannot equally admit that those people clamoring for president to remove some of the ministers that have not performed are not right. They are right.
If you imagine that the president is going to rejig his cabinet, does it make sense to have as much as 40-something ministers in a country where we are barely surviving?
The man is a democratic guru. I'm sure he is listening. I'm sure he is watching. I'm sure he is reading. And I'm sure he is feeling the pains of the legitimate protesters across the country. But what I can assure you is that I'm not him. So it is not within my own power to confirm.
What would you do?
I will reduce the number of the ministers.
To like how many?
I cannot tell you, because governance is not like coming to national TV to just say 50-20. If I tell you, for instance, that out of 40-something ministers, if I were the president, I would reduce it to 20-30. It means I don't even know what governance is all about. You have to make a proper study of the country, a proper study of the existing ministry, which ministry and which ones are supposed to be matched for the collective good of the country before you come up with a number of ministers that should survive in the government.
Honorable, as we close now, are you worried that your party is becoming very unpopular?
Very, very worried. Very, very worried. But I'm equally optimistic that if what my party is doing, particularly the president is doing, I have said it, I'm not here to defend him, and the policies that are put in place, as well as if the agitation of the legitimate protesters of ensuring that hardship, economic policies that seems to suffocate the performance and the life of the citizen of this country, it's looked into. Believe you me, the image of the party will be beyond its image in the past. But until the right thing is done, do not hope that with the way things are going, I cannot tell you that I'm not concerned about the impression that people have about the party. I'm more concerned about the fact that the party have allowed political opponents to take over and do things that are not supposed to be allowed to be done. We must be patriotic. I've said
in fact, there's who are saying that the government needs a cabinet of national unity. I don't know what if the president is thinking in that respect, because it's come to a moment in our history that we really, really need those who are patriotic and who are serious about the business of government.
But how do you, of course, again, if people are clamoring for that, people should equally know that you cannot be talking about government of national unity and be suffocating a government that is in place. People take advantage of happening to blackmail.
Take people across political lines that can get the job done, no matter their political
Let me tell you something. A lot of states are regretted some of the illegitimate activities regarding to the protest that is happening in those states that led to the destruction of public properties. It is, in the first instance, perhaps must have been instigated by those people. And people should come out to protest. People are protesting, and some miscreants are burning houses and stealing, breaking warehouses to steal food items and water.
People will go out tomorrow, from what we understand. What would you be saying to them, just in 20 seconds before?
They should emulate the protest that is happening in Plateau, Adamawa, and some other states across the Federation.
In the Zanga-Zanga.
They should emulate the protest that is happening in the Southeast and South-South. For the first time, I commend the responsiveness of such leaders to say, yes, come out and protest, but let there be decorum. Let us protest in peace. Let us not protest by, destroying properties that belong to individuals or properties that taxpayers' money are used to put in place.
Honorable Yusuf Gagdi, Chairman of the House Committee on the Navy, member representing 3 local government areas in Plateau State. Thanks so much indeed.
Thank you very much, Shem. Thank you for having me.
That's it tonight, and closes our continued coverage for today, for this hour on Channels Television in the protest, the August protest that we tagged it. The promoters of the protest have called it the End Bad Governance protest. We shall be continuing to cover for you. Stick with Channels Television. On behalf of the team here, we will be serving you from the early hours of the day. I'm sure Kimbala. I will see you tomorrow. God bless Nigeria. Bye-bye.